What do you think about Minister Farrakhan speaking here in Macon, Georgia?
Well, I think it's something very positive, to come to Macon or whatever, and I'm definitely interested to hear what he has to say today.
I feel it's an honor to have a positive African-American role model such as Minister Farrakhan speak here in this community in Middle Georgia. I'm glad to be here.
I think he's a blessing to my people. I think he's an example of what we all should be, the dignity that he carried, the courage. And this is what our people is missing. And I really do appreciate him, and I'm quite sure that a lot of more of my people appreciate him too. And I wish he would come back a little bit more often.
I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I think it's much needed. The words that the minister is that he normally leaves with us is something that we desperately need in this part of Georgia. There's a great deal of mental death in this part of Georgia. I happen to be from the place where the messenger walked, Cordele, Georgia, and there's a great mental death there. And Farrakhan being here is absolutely wonderful, and I think that he'll contribute to maybe resurrecting our people here.
Well, I too think that it's wonderful that the minister has come here to speak to our people, and I think a lot of people misunderstand Minister Farrakhan, but anybody that's speaking clearly and plainly about self-help is important. The minister is just teaching that we need to do for ourselves, and I believe in that. And I'm going to teach that to the children, to any children that I come in contact with, that do for self is very important. That way we don't have to spend our lives begging.
I think Minister Farrakhan's an excellent speaker. I've been following for a lot of years, and I think his help down here in Macon, Georgia is well worth needed for all the brothers. I know, speaking from a lot of the Masonic brothers down here, his help is very well needed. And some of the things he be teaching about, a lot of things he be teaching about, I would spread that around to the state of Georgia.
Well, I think it's good for everybody. A lot of people criticizing the stuff he's talking about. I haven't seen it myself in person, but I heard the opportunity, so I took it. I want to come hear what he has to say for myself, so I'll judge and I'll be my own judge on it. But he's doing stuff that's positive for black people everywhere, so I don't think there's nothing nobody can really say about him. That's my feelings on having him here. I'm glad he's here.
I think Mr. Farrakhan is one of the most powerful speakers ever. I've been here about an hour already. Looking forward to hearing him. I'm going in with an open ear. But all this hype about Mr. Farrakhan, these people just know how powerful he is. You know what he has to say is true. That's what it's all about.
Thank you. I've never witnessed in my lifetime a speaker to be able to express the needs of the people so well and to bring the message home. I think that he deserves all praise in this day and time, to be able to stand up when everybody else is afraid to stand up, to make a statement, to speak out. This is the time that we should be bold, and Minister Farrakhan is a bold leader, and I thank Allah for him, and I myself am a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Came up in the 60s in the movement, and I never left the movement, but took on a different role in the movement, if you can understand. So that's what time it is. It's time for us to return to our greatness, to be the people that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad professed and taught that we would be in this day and time. We're a creative people. This is my wife, Moline, and she's the backbone, and I'm the backbone. So we together, we do what we can do.
And what would you like to say, Moline?
Well,
And,
it seems
what
like
would you-
to me we should give thanks for Minister Farrakhan, because he is a blessing to us no matter what race you are, because he is a leader for us black people, and we should all acknowledge that. Even if you're Muslim, Christian, he's the only one that's actually speaking out for us as a human today. Seems to us like we are following him because we just came back from New York for the atonement, and we from Atlanta, so it seems like we're making a ritual here. Now today, this beautiful day that we're blessed with to be here, we should give thanks and praises to the Creator.
Thank you both very much. May God bless you.
Well, I think it's something that's needed here in Macon. The brother is an educational teacher, he's a minister, and everything he say concerning black people is a positive thing, as far as us, coming together as a people, working to solve our own problems. So I think it's great that he bring the message to Macon, because Macon is needed. It needs Minister Farrakhan and a lot of other positive leaders, so it's great.
And you like to make a comment, beloved?
Well, I do think that it is time. We need some awakening here. And so I think Macon is blessed to have this opportunity, really.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I attended the Million Man March last year in Washington, and that's one of the reasons why we're here today. We feel that he's a great leader, and I wanted my son to actually hear Farakhan speak today.
And your comment, beloved?
I'm here also on behalf of, I feel like his presence here would do a lot in the city, and looking forward to him coming back again.
I think it's great because he's a great speaker, and not only do I listen, but I learn from some of his ideas, and plus it got us out of school early because we had a bomb threat Friday, and everybody know the reason that the bomb threat was because he was coming, and they tried to scare us.
I believe that the
minister, which our leader, is truly a divine teacher, and I feel like people should come out and hear what the leader has to say for themselves before anyone can say any undue derogatory statements about him. There's truth to what he said, and I feel like there's a light will be on for the rest of your life if you listen to our leader.
Just like I have been feeling about it all over the place, man. This is the greatest day of my life. I waited 23 years for this, and I finally got to this point, and I'm happy. I'm happy, man. Words can't describe how I feel. I'm happy, man.
Well, I feel like whatever message he has will be something that little Georgians would need to hear. I'm glad he's here. Regardless of whether you are for him, against him, or just here to hear the word, I think everyone should be open to the information that he gives out.
I'm just interested to hear what he has to say from his own mouth. I've never heard him speak. I've never seen him speak before, and I'd like just to hear what he has to say rather than secondhand sources saying what he has to say. But I'm not, I wouldn't consider myself a supporter of him, but I am trying to keep an open mind.
I am quite very elated about it. I have talked about it for months now. I have discussed him in my classroom. I teach third grade, and my students are well abreast on Minister Farrakhan and his issues. And I think he's such a dynamite and powerful man that I am just behooved that he took the time out of his busy schedule to come and speak to the people, because he's for the people and he represents the people, and he's full of so much love and concern. And I just, my tears of joy is with me today. I'm just overwhelmed with joy.
I think,
thank you very much.
Regardless of what you think about him personally, it's important to hear what he has to say. And personally, I'm here because all I know is what I hear from the media. And being a media person myself, I know the media is often kind of selective about what they pay attention to. So I'm trying to hear things right from the man himself instead of only what the media lets me hear.
I'm really thrilled about
Thank
it.
you very much.
I'm very excited. I'm not very familiar with his religion or whatever, but a lot of politicians or leaders, black or white, whether I'm familiar with their religion or not, if they can bring together 1 million black men at one time, has to be something great about them. And I'm very excited, and I wouldn't miss this for anything.
It's a great blessing, brother. We're very happy to have the minister come. We need the inspiration, guidance from this brother, and he's our leader. Glad to have him here.
Well, anybody that speaks the truth needs to speak any and everywhere. So for him to be coming to Macon to speak, it's a blessing for Macon.
I'm glad that he's here because he made a positive role model for the black males, and I just wanted to come see him to hear what he had to say.
To the officers of GABEO, to the members of GABEO, to the friends and supporters of GABEO, we indeed are happy that you're here today for this historic moment in our history. We did not know that Macon, Georgia would be so lucky when we were meeting in June down at Savannah State College. We were wondering where we would go for the October meeting. And I remember sitting over dinner with Reverend Ficklin, Senator Diane Harvey Johnson, who's the chair of our Legislative Black Caucus, and other members of GABEO, and I said, Reverend Ficklin, you've asked that GABEO come to Macon. how do you feel about the possibility of bringing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan to Macon to speak for GABEO? And Reverend Finklin's eyes lit up and he said, Tyrone, that would be absolutely the most important thing that we've done in the history of our organization. So today, brothers and sisters, those of you who live in Macon and the surrounding areas, consider yourselves very, very lucky that GABEO is in your community this weekend meeting during our fall convention. We meet 3 times a year. We meet in February in Atlanta, in June in Savannah, and the October meeting, it just floats around wherever we can find someone who will take us. That's where we go in October. And today it is absolutely appropriate that we have a man who certainly is known not only here in Georgia, North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, the Arctic Circle, but a man whose voice and face is known throughout the world. A man who has become the most powerful voice for African American citizens, for Africans, not only Muslims, not only those of Islamic faith, but those people who are downtrodden, those people who are oppressed, those people who are afflicted by poverty and hunger and disease, those people who are afflicted by political oppression, those persons who are looking for a way to climb out of that ditch of poverty and hunger and malnutrition, those persons who are trying to find a way to move away from the gangs and to move away from all of the ills in our society. There's no other person today in America or in the world that we could bring to articulate a way out of the mess that we're in today. This gentleman who's going to speak to you in a few minutes is the only person in American history who's been able to amass over 2 million people in one location in the United States of America. I was one of those on October 16, 1995, on the Mall in Washington, D.C., and no matter what the United States Park Service says, no matter what CBS or ABC, NBC, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Macon Telegraph, the Atlanta Constitution, no matter what they say, I say we had 2 million people in Washington, D.C. Why did we have 2 million there? We had 2 million people there because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan had a vision, and he called us together. No other person in the world could do that, brothers and sisters. Nobody else but Louis Farrakhan could do that. So now we have him in Macon, Georgia. And it's not just a meeting for Macon, Georgia. This is a meeting for America. Because as Georgia goes, so goes America. Georgia is very important in the political process. The United States is very important in the world process in terms of the political order. And we have the man here today who's going to give us the message to really articulate a political order for African Americans and people oppressed throughout the world. So I bring to you tonight the man who I perceive to be the person that we will have to look for toward the year 2000 and beyond, a man that we will have to look for political guidance, a man who can help set the social order in place, a man who can encourage our people to participate in the body politic, not by giving our vote to one party, not by running to somebody who doesn't want us, by giving our vote to those who support us each and every day, brothers and sisters. That's why we have him today, and that's why now I want you to stand and I want you to welcome the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we give Him praise and thanks for all His many wonderful blessings to the human family. We thank Almighty God for His intervention in the affairs of human beings throughout the history of this world by sending His prophets and messengers into the world with divine guidance for all of the human family. We thank Him for Moses and the Torah. We thank Him for Jesus and the gospel. We thank Him for Muhammad and the Quran. Peace be upon these worthy servants of Allah. As a student of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, I am eternally grateful to Almighty God for His intervention in our affairs in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, who came among us and raised from among us a divine leader, teacher, and guide, His messenger to us, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I greet all of you, my dear and wonderful brothers and sisters, with the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum, but it means in English, peace be unto you. To Brother Tyrone Brooks, to the leaders of the Georgia Association of Black Elected Officials, to Minister Lucius B.R. Muhammad, to the Reverend Ficklin, and to the Reverend clergy that may be present, and to all black elected officials who may be present this evening. Brothers and sisters, I am honored to be in Macon, Georgia. The man who is my teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, spent many of his young years here in Macon, Georgia. And he was born just down the road a piece in Sandersville, with family in Deep Step, Georgia, and all throughout this area. You are a very blessed people. But I wonder, do you know how really blessed you are? Macon, Georgia, a great city in a great state, in a great nation that suffers from the lack of good leadership. The leadership of the nation, the state, the city, the spiritual and political leadership of this world is in deep trouble. And if there is not a change, a substantive change, not just in persons who lead, but a substantive change in the mentality of those who lead, then the United States is headed for deep internal trouble. In the last presidential election, 45% of those eligible to vote actually went to the polls. 45% of those eligible to vote just didn't pay it any attention. So the President of the United States, President Clinton, was voted in by a little over half of the electorate. The rest decided they didn't want to bother. In a democracy, the right to vote is a very precious right, and it is a privilege. When half of the people say to heck with it, I'm not going to vote, that means there is great dissatisfaction among the people. When blacks began to get the right to vote in the South and all over the nation, there was a fever to elect black candidates. Now we have nearly 6,000 black elected officials throughout the United States, but there is great apathy among the black eligible voters. Why? Black elected officials have to understand that black people have become disappointed in the process, disappointed with those whom they have elected to office. Sometimes it's due to unfair expectancy. You vote somebody in, and because they're black, you think that because a black person is in some position of apparent power, that he can just wave a magic wand and change the realities under which we live. That is not so. And if you vote a brother or sister into office with this expectancy that it's going to be all right, and then you find that it is not all right and things have not really changed, then you get angry with your brother or sister that you voted in, thinking that they failed you, when maybe they didn't fail us. Maybe our hopes were too high. Maybe we didn't look after them like we should. Now listen, it takes money to be elected to any political office. And if we are not going to support financially those whom we desire to serve us, then there are others who are much more politically sophisticated than we, and they will put the money behind your man or your woman, and your man and your woman that you elect will feel more responsive to the needs of money rather than to the needs of the people who elected that person to office. Now there's another side to that coin that is very ugly. We elect our own people to serve us, and they are more concerned with serving their former slave masters' children than they are with serving us. Now the community does have a right to expect that whomsoever we vote into office will work on our behalf. We have a right to expect that. But when we vote you in because you look like we look, and that's not racism. That's looking after what you suspect or believe is your interest. We cannot fault an Italian for voting an Italian into office. You wouldn't do that, would you? You wouldn't fault them for that. You cannot fault a white person for voting a white person into office. That's their right to do. And they shouldn't fault us for voting one of our own into office. But when we vote you into office, you have a duty and a responsibility to your constituency. And this is where many of our black elected officials have failed the people. And so the people just wash their hands of politics. They say it's the slave master's game. And when you get involved in it, they say you become a pawn of the former slave master. So then they can't trust their political leaders because they talk out of three sides of a two-sided mouth. You with the hood when you're in the hood, but when you're behind the door with the other folk, you say, well, I was only, pacifying them. I'm really with you. So we got a mess on our hands that all of us have to work to straighten out. Now, this my white man is better than your white man. You see, that has to stop. The beloved Democrats, which most of you are, you say my white man, Clinton, is better than your Republican white man, Doe. And I ain't even considering Mr. Perot. Wait now, wait. Now this is plantation politics. You are slaves. Listen, no, I'm just going to talk straight and frank talk. Some of you are on what we call the Democratic plantation. And you act like, the old days when we were on literal plantation. Don't want to leave the boss. Boss beating the hell out you, but you don't want to leave the boss. Boss not treating you right. But Lord, I can't leave the boss. Now you free to go, and you still stay. It's all right, boss. I don't care what you do to me. I'm going to be loyal to the party. You sound foolish in 1996 as we're moving toward the year 2000. To be loyal to anything that is not loyal to you is making a fool out of yourself. Now you have a lot of young brothers and sisters in here tonight. And these young brothers and sisters of ours, they don't care too much for politics. They don't care too much for religion. Because they see the politicians and the preachers like pimps and hustlers. No, I'm telling you. And I hope I'm not hurting anybody's feelings. But the young brothers used to be controlled through their political, religious, and educational and civic leaders. And the white community used to make sure they cultivated a black bourgeoisie to be a buffer between them and the angry masses. So you graduate from college, you get your degree, and you learn to speak properly. Don't act like the fella you used to be or the girl you used to be. Then they bring you up in the order. Oh, yes. Then you become the assistant to the assistant. for the vice president of nothing. And it's your job to come back to the black community and make black people think that democracy works for them. When in reality, they're using you to pacify your suffering people. They'll give you a crumb because a crumb can satisfy you. But your people need acres of wheat to make bread. I hope you're listening. So the Democratic bosses will give you a little something for Georgia. And you swear, oh man, look at what they did. But you who are elected to represent us should not sell out for crumbs. You should be standing up for the needs of your people. Bill Clinton has put more black people in the administration, in his administration, than any president ever before him. And we give him credit. We give him credit. However, see, giving a black man a job to serve white interests is not a big thing. Slave master always knew how to use the talent of his slave. So you feel good, don't you? Running all over the world in Air Force One and flying around and, oh boy, I'm really working. But what is the condition of your people? Now, you should ask Mr. Clinton, Mr. Clinton, we are really pleased that you put so many of us in your administration, but where were you on affirmative action? Where were you on welfare reform? Where were you when our people needed you most? You signed bills into law that were not in the best interest of the people that I represent. So I can't take the crumb and feel good. You can't pacify me with a crumb while my people are hungry in the streets. So if the Georgia Association of Black Elected Officials are really striving to achieve excellence in public service, then excellence does not mean you're an excellent slave for your master. It means you're an excellent servant of the people that elected you to public service. Politics is dirty business. And you can't send somebody in dirty business and not have a bathtub. You send your people off to the state legislature in Atlanta, that's a hellhole up there. When they come back home, you don't debrief them. You don't have a town hall meeting to ask them about how they voted. You don't make them accountable to you. You just send them and you don't know what they do. And because you're not watching what they do what the hell they want to do and then come back and say they represent you. If this is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, how How can it be a true government of, by, and for the people if the people are ignorant and asleep to what is really going on? There is no way that democracy can ever be democracy in companionship with ignorance and illiteracy. When you tell us you have democracy, you're telling us you have people who are intelligent, know their self-interest, and are wise enough to make an enlightened decision based upon their enlightened self-interest. And when you tell me you give people the right to vote, but not the education that will allow them to exercise that right in their own behalf, then it's like giving candy to a baby and then taking it from them because they have no power to resist you. And this is why politics today is really angering the American people, because they're treating the people like the people are fools. Madison Avenue PR firms and advertising agencies putting together slick ads that are good for foolish people, but not discussing the substantive issues that affect our lives. I mean, it's not right that a president can go into office coming into South Carolina to put a brick in place in a burned out church. Why was the church burned out in the first place? You knew this was going on for years. Burning black churches. Now the president comes and puts a little plasterboard on the wall, hit a few nails, get a photo op, and you say, oh, isn't that something? Then he puts on dark glasses and plays his horn like a blues brother fella, and you say, whoa, the president is really down, man. He don't have to do anything for you to get your vote. Just show up. And just because Big Massa showed up at a black function, you all are beside yourself. You are still slaves, damn it, and you gotta wake up and be a free people. My host, the Georgia Association of Black Elected Officials, under the leadership of Representative Tyrone Brooks, the moment he said that he was bringing me here, the Atlanta Daily Constitution weighed in with an editorial. You should be ashamed of yourself, bringing such a man. But wait a minute. All in Macon headlines. Farakhan is coming. It ain't like December the 24th. Santa Claus is coming to town. You happy to see a big fat man come down from the North Pole, huh? You better not pout. You better not shout. But when Farrakhan is coming to town, everybody gets upset. Preachers don't want him in their church. Can't come in here. black politicians for even having the nerve to call him to come. And then some get weak and say, oh, if I had known, I would never have allowed such a thing to happen. What's wrong with Farrakhan? I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't use drugs. Never been arrested in my life. And I'm 64 years old. I'm not a fornicator. I'm not an adulterer. I don't chase women, and I don't chase men. Why you don't want me in Macon, Georgia? What kind of city is this that you don't want to receive a good man? What have I done? You say, oh, he's a hate monger. That's what he is. How could you see my hate over your hate? Wait. I'm a hate monger, they say. My dear brother and friend, Carl Rowan, is writing a book on the coming race war in America. And he says the #1 black hater is Louis Farrakhan. And the #1 white hater is Pat Buchanan. Pat Buchanan is on TV regularly. On CNN. Both sides of the issue. Crossfire. Worked in the administration of presidents. But he's now the #1 white hating man. Look, foolish people. Not you, I'm talking about the foolish writer. If the society did not do evil, I would not have anything to point out. You are angry with me because I point out the evil as it ill affects my people and ill affects the nation. Somebody has to do that. I'm not the hater. The hater is the group that see you win the mayoral election here in Macon and rob you of it. That's a hater. The hater is one who uses Farrakhan to deprive Cynthia McKinney, if they could, of her justified seat in Congress as a representative of the people. Hatred is redlining. Hatred is gerrymandering. Hatred is bringing drugs and guns into the black community. That's hate. No, I'm not a hater. I am a lover of truth and a lover of my people and a lover of the human family and want to see a better world come into being. I want to stop here for a moment to talk for a moment about why Farrakhan is not loved by those in power. See, Moses was not loved by Pharaoh. Was he? Noah was not loved by the rulers of his day. Lot, in today's political climate, would have been called homophobic. I don't know what that means. But poor Lot was sent to a people where the males were coming to males with lust in their heart as they would the female. And he was sent to warn them that God was displeased with that behavior. If Lot showed up in Macon, don't even think about Atlanta or San Francisco. Just let Lot come to Macon. Would the mayor come out and meet him? No, if homosexuals are in high places, the mayor couldn't stand with somebody who's preaching against that. But what's wrong with the pastors? Why don't you have the strength to speak not against the person, but against the sin, so that the person might perhaps change their way and come into the favor of God? But when the pastor winks at sin, and when the preacher winks at the wickedness that's in high places, then we become ineffective watchmen on the wall for the security of the people. Lot would be in deep trouble here. Moses would certainly run into Pharaoh and his magicians. And Jesus would run into some scribes and Pharisees. The political leaders of Jesus' day did not like him. Talk to me. Reverend, if I make a mistake, you correct me. But look, here were politicians. Jesus, a good man, was in their midst. And Jesus was doing a good work, making the blind see, the deaf hear, the dumb speak, the lame walk, cleansing the leper, raising the dead to life, healing the woman at the well with the issue of blood. The man laying in his bed, Jesus told him, take up your bed and walk. Man doing a good work. But the politicians and the preachers said he does his work by the power of Beelzebub. That's another name for the devil. So the book says they hated Jesus without a cause. They didn't have any reason to hate him, but you see, he represented good government. You did not hear me. He represented good government. Look at what the scripture says. For unto us a child is born. For unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders. See? He shall be called Wonderful wonderful. Which one of your politicians do you call wonderful? Counselor. Which one of your politicians is a good counselor, advisor to you? The mighty God and the Prince of Peace. And that's why they hated him. Because he came bringing good government. And in his person was government. He represented the kingdom of God. I'm going to stop 1 minute. I know this is a political meeting, but I'm a spiritual man. Kingdom. We broke this down in a political meeting in Philadelphia. See, king, dumb. If you put an E on the end of dumb, you get dome. The dome is the highest part in the construction of the building. This is the dome. But who is king? On the throne, in your dome. You didn't hear me. See, if God is on the throne as king in your dome, then your thinking, your actions are in harmony with God's will and God's law. Every one of you elected officials, when you took your oath of office, you put your right hand up and your left hand on the Bible. And you swore to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state constitution, right? And you said, so help you God. Oh, some lying going on, isn't it? Wait a minute. See, when you put your hand on the Bible to swear that you are going to uphold the Constitution, where you pledge allegiance saying one nation under God. Stop lying. One nation under Satan. Because your actions are more satanic than they are godly. Talk back to me. You got your hand on the Bible. The Old Testament is a book of law, statutes, commandments. The New Testament is the highest manifestation of law. It is the law of love. Two commandments I give you this day. Love God with all your heart, your soul, and your mind. And your second is like unto that. Love your neighbor as yourself. On these two hang all the law and the prophets. You got your hand on the Bible. So you elected officials should be representatives of the highest manifestation of law, which is the law of love. How can you tell me you love and then enact unjust laws that favor corporate greed and send the people to hell? tell me you're a good elected official and you see your people dying in the streets and no politician speaks about the warfare that's going on in the black community? You don't need to put your hand on the Bible. You need to find you the book called The Prince by Machiavelli and swear your oath on top of that book. Swear your oath on top of the philosophy of Nietzsche, or maybe the book Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. Put your hand on that book. But if you're going to put your hand on the Bible and talk about upholding the Constitution and the law of that book, then you ought to be found doing that or dying trying. Notice it got a little still. I can almost hear your brains turning. And you're looking at yourself. And you're saying, well, how come I didn't hear this before? So I could be much more responsive and responsible when I took my oath of office. I thought it was just some symbolism I was involved in. You mean they didn't teach you the meaning of these things? Then that's what I'm here for. And why they don't want me here in Macon? Because they want you, elected officials, to be the kind of elected official that they can master. That's what they want. They want you to be their same old tool. As they had your grandfather and grandmother right here in Georgia, they want the grandchild to be like your great-grandmother, filled with fear and trembling, that when they ask you to do something you don't know how to say no, if it's wrong, I'll see what I can do, boss. Trembling, that when they ask you to do something you don't know how to say no, if it's wrong, I'll see what I can do, boss. Well, no wonder the people don't want to vote no more. Because a mockery is being made of Constitution. A mockery is being made of the Bible. A mockery is being made of everything holy and sacred. Farakhan is hated not because I'm a bad man. I'm hated because I'm a free man. And when I say I'm free, I wish that you could enjoy that freedom that I enjoy. You know, when you're free from fear of everything but God, then you're free to serve God. I mean, that's a wonderful feeling. I wish I could just impart that to you, because that's your problem. You just a group of scared to death people, and you will never be free as long as you are afraid of another human being that claims to have power greater than your power or the power of God. Macon, Georgia You are a great and wonderful people, but fear keeps you choked. Let me ask you, name somebody in your mind that you're afraid of. If it's nobody. Because hell, if it wasn't somebody, you would be in better shape than you is. Now, if you're afraid of the sheriff, if you're afraid of the county sheriffs, these real tough people that are known to kill black people, I'm going to show you how much power they have. According to the teachings of the Holy Quran, say if a gnat or anything smaller took a morsel of bread from the president of the United States. Now just picture this, the president in the White House sitting down to a sumptuous feast, and a gnat comes up and takes something out of his plate. It said he does not have the power to call the gnat back to drop that morsel, but he can call you. He can't call the gnat because he don't have power over the weakest of God's creatures, but the greatest of God's creatures, the glory of God, the male and the female. He just calls you and you obey him. It is not him, it is you that is in your own way of progress. You are scared to death, Macon. Georgia, you're scared. Then you'll always be a slave. They say, yeah, Farakhan. Farakhan, you don't live down here. No, I live up there. And up there the same as down here. If you feared God, you would resist the devil and he would flee from you. Now I'm going to show you what I mean. Many of you young men supported the Million Man March. And I'm so grateful for what you did. Many buses came out of Georgia. Cars, planes, trains. And you got to Washington. You don't even know what power drew you there. Some of you never even considered the power that drew you to Washington. It had nothing to do with Farrakhan. I'm just an instrument that was being used, but the power really was God calling you. My God, he calls me. He calls me by the thunder. I hear him call within my soul. You heard him. And you don't even know why you made the trip. I gotta go. I gotta go. Some of the wives, they understood the call better than the brothers. And the wives said, honey, you gonna get on that bus. If I got to put you on the bus, you going. When we looked up, there was a sea. A sea of peace. A sea of tranquility. A sea of love. a sea of brotherhood that affected people, thanks to television, all the way around the world. And when I got up and left America and went overseas, the great newspapers called my tour a terror tour. A thug fest. Farakhan grubbing for money, cavorting with dictators. And they put that stuff out in such a way that many of you said, oh, Farrakhan. I mean, Farrakhan, why you do that? I mean, just when you had the whole thing in your hand, I still got it in my hand. And if white America doubt that I got it in my hand, try me. It is not my hand, but God has put it in my hand, and he has not taken it out of my hand. I want you to listen to something. See, if you go to the Bible, Reverend, I think it's the 83rd or the 86th Psalm.
Come on with it, brother minister. Come on.
Here's a conspiracy.
That's right.
Going on. And the conspirators are talking. And they say, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that Israel may no longer be remembered in them. A conspiracy to cut off a people from their roots. Because whenever you can cut a tree off from its root, the tree got to die. Because it's the root that nourishes the tree. Let us cut them off from being a nation, from being a people, that Israel may no longer be remembered in them, that they wouldn't even remember how God brought them across the Red Sea. They won't remember how he parted the waters for them. They won't remember his helping them in the fiery furnace, in the lion's den, when they were in Babylon. Let's cut them off. Cut them off. A conspiracy. What you don't know or haven't considered. The Bible is not talking about some Jews back there yesterday alone. It's talking about them giving a picture of their suffering to show you yourself. Have you been in a cool place or in a fiery furnace? Have you been in a lion's den? Have they not done to you what was done to Daniel? Azariah, Zephaniah changed their name to Shadrach, Meshach, and a bad Negro. It brought us here and changed our names, changed our learning, changed our language, destroyed in us our culture, our history, the knowledge of our God and our religion and our ancient tribal customs and ways. They cut us off. And from the day that they cut us off, they determined that they would never allow us to reconnect with our ancient past. I hope you're listening. Now, as long as our leaders involve themselves in Negro affairs, many white folk would applaud them. Nice job. You're a credit to your race. Do you remember Marcus Garvey? Do you remember that Marcus Garvey was trying to connect the black man in America with Africa? He said, Africans, Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. He wanted the wealth of Africa to be once again ours. I want you to hear me. Yes, sir. In the close of the last century, they had a conference in Berlin called the Berlin Conference, where white folk got together, the European nations, and decided how they were going to carve up Africa in this century. And what they decided in Berlin, they actually accomplished. They carved up Africa. And for this past century, Africa has been suffering from European colonial domination and the manipulation of tribal differences, border problems, to create the marginalization of Africa as we go into the 21st century. While Jimmy Carter from Georgia was president of these United States, his national security advisor, a name that's very difficult to pronounce, Zbigniew Brzezinski, there was a memo attached to his name that after it was discovered, they said it was a forgery. Well, that means that somebody else wrote it and put his name on it, or they rewrote what he said and put their name on it. What is the forgery? But in that document it said, no black man from America should be allowed to connect with the liberation struggle in Africa. Tell it, brother. Our own brother mayor, the mayor, former mayor of Atlanta, Andrew Young, one of our great soldiers in a sense. He was the representative of the U.S. government at the UN. He made a mistake of talking to Palestinians. Come on, beloved. And the ADL had bugged him and the Palestinian where they talked. When it was discovered, he had to give up his post. If he went quietly in the night, they would make him an offer. later on down the road. But that man had more contacts in Africa as Ron Brown had. I hope you're listening. If Andy Young had opted to be a black leader, they would have killed him outright. Because Andrew Young was the man at that hour that could have united us with Africa's development. He never opted to be a national black leader. He used his contacts to build Atlanta.
Go ahead, brother minister. You preach it.
But the black people were marginally developed. But Atlanta has become one of the greatest cities in the world under his leadership and the leadership of his predecessor. Two black mayors. But you go to Atlanta and look at the condition of black people. Now don't get angry with me. I'm not against Andrew Young. I love him.
Come on, beloved.
He's my brother.
Yes, sir.
And I believe they would have killed him.
Yes, sir.
Ron Brown.
Come on now. On the road, brother minister.
See, died under very suspicious circumstances. Because Ron could only be in public office 4 more years if Clinton wins. And if Clinton did not win, Ron is out. To do what?
Go ahead.
What is the future?
Teach.
What could Ron Brown have done? We lost another giant. I want you to hear me. Our brother Marcus Garvey was in the federal penitentiary right here in Georgia. A false trial with liars. And then they deported him back to Jamaica or to England. And they broke up his movement. And they appeared to win. Along came Paul Robeson, a great athlete, a great singer, a brilliant mind, a man that loved black people. He went overseas and gained friendship in Europe. And they said he became a communist. And when he came back to America, his beloved country, he was stoned by us. Because this media went to work and made us see our brother as a traitor. And he died in Philadelphia as a recluse, broken because he gave his life for an ungrateful group of people that bowed to the manipulation of the U.S. media. They took his passport. And then there was W.E.B. Du Bois. Oh, you can talk about him now because he's dead. You can make him your hero now. It's safe because he's dead. But what did he do? He was involved in the formation of the Pan-African Congress, trying to connect black people in America, in the Caribbean, in Africa,
Black people, wherever we are on the earth, he saw us as one family. They took his passport. Can't travel anymore. Then when they let him go, he went to Africa and he died in Ghana, developing the history of Africa's contribution to world civilization. But you don't know that much about him. W.E.B. Du Bois. What was his crime? Trying to link Africa and black America. That was his crime. Let's look at Malcolm.
Come on. Follow the road, brother minister. Follow the road.
Brother Malcolm was all right as long as he was talking about white folk and talking to black folk. Well, they didn't like that either, but we could stomach that. When Malcolm broke from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and went to Africa, went to the Middle East, and then started trying to address the Organization of African Unity, the OAU, bringing the plight of black people in America to force the African representatives in the United Nations to remember us. He was poisoned in Egypt. And de Gaulle, the president of France, wouldn't let him into France because they didn't want him killed on French soil. But he came back home to America, denied police protection, murdered in the Audubon ballroom. And two Muslims, followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, were charged with that crime. And they did 26 years to life. And they never had any involvement at all. William Kunstler, a brilliant Jewish lawyer who is a decent, moral man that has passed from this earth. But Kunstler went to the prison and talked to the man that was caught at the scene, Talmadge Hayer, who was a Muslim, but he was out of the mosque.
Go ahead, baby.
And he named everyone that was involved in the assassination of Malcolm, and the government would not reopen the case. You didn't hear me. What was Malcolm's crime? He wanted to unite you again with Africa and your people. What about Martin Luther King? He's our Georgia homeboy. Y'all can ride down Martin Luther King Boulevard today. It's all right to have a picture of Mr. King up. He's dead. You can't trouble white folk no more. All these Negro preachers, I want you to listen to me. The same National Baptist Convention that didn't want nothing to do with Louis Farrakhan, didn't want nothing to do with Martin Luther King Jr. The head of that convention, Mr. Jackson, in Chicago, when they named Martin Luther King Boulevard, he changed the entrance of his church so that his church would not be on Martin Luther King Boulevard. Martin's crime.
Come on, brother minister.
It's all right, Martin, to integrate bus and lunch counters. Get black people the right to vote. But when Martin Luther King began to see a connection between the war in Vietnam and the war on poverty that Lyndon Baines Johnson was supposed to be fighting, he knew that as long as that war was being prosecuted, the poor would always be on the back burner. So he made a conscious decision to speak out against the war in Vietnam. Here's the government prosecuting a war. I want you to hear me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Teach us.
Whenever America gets in trouble, it's your black bodies. It's poor brown people, poor white people that they send to fight and die. And they don't know what the hell they're dying for. They say they're dying for democracy. You are a liar. Martin King had to face the wrath of his own brothers who turned against him. J. Edgar Hoover called him a notorious liar. They started sending him letters asking him to kill himself. And then they had bugged his hotel rooms and they said, if you don't go ahead on and kill yourself, we're going to send your wife a tape of some of the conversations that we have heard in your room. This is your government. See, it's all right for you to drive down Martin Luther King Boulevard, but you ought to know what Martin King suffered to try to make a difference in your life and in mine. Don't lose sight on that, because the slave master exalts a man that they killed. In all your churches, you got Jesus on the wall. They killed him too. And they will kill him again if he come bringing a government of peace and justice. Am I upsetting you all? Martin King was assassinated because he was interfering with America's prosecution of a war. The media had helped to create this tremendous image of Martin Luther King Jr. as opposed to the image of Malcolm and Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, and H. Rap Brown, and the others who were more militant in their way. But when Martin Luther King started dealing with the war in Vietnam, Carl Rowan wrote an article that later appeared in Reader's Digest, where he said Martin Luther King had outlived his usefulness and had become an enemy of his own people. Same kind of article the man wrote about Farrakhan when I made my trip overseas. I want you to hear me, black man, black woman. The Washington Post had an editorial. He has betrayed his people.
Right.
Outlived his usefulness. A little while later, brother was dead.
Yes, sir.
And now, for the last 20 or so years, 30 years, since Malcolm and Martin were gone, all strong ties with Africa and the liberation struggle was discouraged. And then came Farrakhan. After the Million Man March, you didn't know that you had affected people all over the earth. How would you know? They were not going to tell you. Do you know how much money was spent promoting the image of black men as savages throughout the world? And you helped to fuel that image by your silly actions. Some of my brothers involved in rap, you put black women on your CD covers with a string in their backside, showing the shamelessness of our women all overseas. You have become so low down and filthy that you don't need anybody speaking clean words to you, but the low down and the more filthy they are, the more you like them. Today, performers can stand in front of you and pull out their private part and shake them in the face of your women and your children. And you won't run up on the stage and beat their backside and drive their raggedy behind into the street. But you love that kind of foolishness. The more raunchy, low down, and filthy the language is, the better you like it. Look at what you've become. Come on, brother. The picture colors. The picture boys in the hood. Menace to society. Look at all these films exploiting gang warfare, exploiting the savagery of our people, sending it all over the world so that the world saw black men as unworthy of life itself. And I said one day, no, we're going to change this image. I went throughout America talking to black men only. And the same media, he's sexist. He don't want women in his meeting. Have you ever attended a meeting of Catholic priests or Jewish rabbis? Is there a woman in the house? Why you didn't write your damn story then? You got promise keepers talking to white men, you have never opened your mouth. But when Farrakhan talking to black men, you so damn afraid that somebody gonna raise an army to come against you for what you know you deserve. Every good thing I tried to do, you interpret it as evil. So when I called for 1 million and 2 million showed up, you couldn't even bear to tell the truth of the numbers. Like the Bible said, there was a number that no man could count, evidently so. So after the Million Man March, I listened to you pundits on the radio and television. You just shook up. How did he do it? Since you didn't help me, I'm not one of your favorite boys. President got out of town that day. They closed down the Congress that day. The tanks rolled in that morning. They figured they would have a long, hot afternoon. But they had nothing to do. Peace reigned supreme. And you, the despised and the rejected, you touched the whole world on that one day. And I, as your representative, went overseas not to meet with thugs and dictators, but to talk about atonement and reconciliation and an end to war among the brothers. They didn't tell you that. I was received as a king. They met me at airports singing songs and chanting. I came in your name, not to betray you, but to connect you. And because that's something they don't want, they put an evil spin on it. I didn't just go to Libya, Nigeria, Sudan, Iraq, and Iran. I went to 14 other countries and met with 14 other heads of state and government. Why didn't they give some balance to their reporting? Because their aim was not to give you a balanced report. Their aim was to show that I squandered. The 2 million men that came. Which one of your Negro leaders ever went any place and come back with a promise of $1 billion and the wealth of an entire nation to back him? Show me one. The minute Gaddafi said he would help us, they went and tightened the law. This is the government of the United States. They don't want no help to come to you. They don't want you to have a friend outside of America, and they know they're not your friend inside America. Go ahead. Everywhere I went, there was an outpouring of love.
Yes, sir.
And by this February, we will show you on film the result of that tour.
Yes, sir.
So you can see yourself. What I said, where I went, how I was received, you make your judgment. When I got back this last time, they took my passport.
Yes, sir.
Mine, my sons, several others. They gave me a new one. I got to confess. They just kept that one because it had a stamp in it that they may use at some point in a trial.
Come on, minister. Come on.
They were talking all this big talk about bringing me before Congress.
That's what they said. Big talk.
But I'm not no scared to death nigger or negro. The last of them is gone. When I came back and said, bring me, then you back down with your big mouth. Why you don't want me in front of Congress if you got something? See, I got the goods on you. You don't want me in that kind of setting. Because if ever there was a man born in the world to tell the truth, you're looking at him. And I'll die on the truth that I tell. This is why they don't want you to listen to Farrakhan, because you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So we came back home to be ridiculed and mocked and evil spoken of. On the trip with me was a former congressman, Gus Savage. And Gus took me into the stateroom on the airplane and he said, Brother Farakhan, I always thought that you could unite black people in America, but I never really understood your power in Africa.
Listen.
He said, I have to leave the tour now. He said, but if you have the same effect in the Arab and Muslim world, you're the most dangerous black man on this earth to the forces of divide and conquer. And he said, when you get back to the United States, they're going to jump on you with both feet. Why are you going to jump on me? Because black people listen to me all over the world. Why are you angry with me? Because I'm a Muslim. And I'm not one of them scared to death Muslims.
Go ahead, Brother Minister.
I went to Muslim countries.
That's right. Yes, sir.
I sat down with Rafsanjani
Right.
in Iran, spoke to over 5 million in person and 60 million on television. I spoke to over 250 million Muslims while I was on my tour. They didn't tell you that, did they? I talked about reconciliation between Iran and Iraq. When I sat down with President Saddam Hussein, I talked about the suffering of his people. They won the war, the United Nations, but over 500,000 Iraqi children have died since the war is over because of sanctions. See, you sit in comfort, even if you're in some kind of financial strait, you eat. But there are people over there that cannot eat well. Therefore, women are not carrying their babies to term. And they don't have enough incubators. They have to put 2 babies in an incubator because some of the material to fix the incubator, the UN would say, could be used for war materials.
Think about it. Teach. Think about it.
They drop bombs over there with nuclear waste material in the bombs. So when the bombs fell, the nuclear waste was the fallout of the bomb. And now over there, children dying of leukemia, cancer spreading. Not incurable, but there's no medicine to cure it because of sanctions. See, I saw this. I'm a human being. I'm not a politician. But when you hear babies crying, a baby, I think the baby was 2 years old, weighing 12 pounds. I brought back pictures. What kind of human being would I be to see suffering like that and politicians making decisions that you, the American people, don't know a damn thing about? And if this is a government of, by, and for the people, why don't you know what America's foreign policy objectives are in the world? So I went and I saw. And after seeing, I made up my mind. I'm coming back here, and never again will we let America make foreign policy that ill affects Africa and we don't say or do anything about it. Some of you in here are from the Caribbean. You don't know what America's policies are for the Caribbean. Here you left Jamaica, Trinidad, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Barbados, and here corporate greed, spending this year nearly $1 billion sending money to Congress so that laws could be enacted for the benefit of corporate greed.
Go ahead, Brother Minister. Tell it.
You have 200 major corporations that are in, some of them in 170 countries on this earth. These corporations are concerned about who is elected in those countries. And if it is a government that is not favorable to their blood sucking of the wealth of those people, then the CIA operatives go to work. Well, all of this got to be exposed. Did you hear me? All of it has to be exposed, not just to you, but to the American people. And if you want this kind of crap that you call a government, then you got what you deserve. The government is wicked, and if you take it, you just as wicked as they are, so you go down with them when they go. There's a God on scene today. You don't know him, but I know him. He's not going to play with America. You may be powerful to others, but to God, you are less than a flea. Look at the rain. He beat you down with a raindrop. He beat you down with a snowflake. He beat you down with fire ants and bees. He beat you down with volcanic eruptions and tornadoes and earthquakes. Come on, God. Show them who the real power is. You'll all be begging for mercy before this is over. You want my people to kill me. Well, you might have to come do it yourself. And if God permitted, it's all right with me. But I don't think so. I don't think you will get away with even trying me in your courts. There's a God on scene today. And he's my friend. And I am his friend. And I'm hiding in his bosom. Now go ahead and attack me if you want. Well, let's come back to Macon and call it a day. Look at you in Macon. How many black people in Macon? You the majority. How come you don't have a mayor that look like you? You the majority on the city council. Tell me why all the contracts going to white companies and none to black companies when 17% of those that are able are right here, but they get no government money. What are you in city council for? Is it just for you to sit and hold down a seat while all the money go to those that don't give a damn about our community? You're on the board of education, but look at the educational system here. What's wrong with you, Macon? I'll tell you what's wrong. The Bible says, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your minds. That's your problem, Macon. You're a slave mentality Negro sitting in seats of power that you give to your enemy, and you refuse to use your power to elevate your people. God is showing you something. In Macon, where they hung black people.
That's right.
shot black people, raped and ravished our women and girls in these backwoods of Georgia. The sheriff liked the man's daughter. He'd come to the man and tell him, send your daughter out. And instead of that man dying and killing, he sent his daughter out. You all know what I'm talking about. There wasn't no black woman that the slave master wanted that he couldn't get. And if it's still like that, then that's a slap in your face as a man. It would be better for you to be dead than for your woman to be here unprotected and disrespected. God is showing you something. I was in Birmingham the other day, and I saw in Birmingham at the Civil Rights Museum, which everyone should go and see. The Civil Rights Museum in Birmingham. You all, if you have a chance, just go over and go through there and see what your people suffered to give you and me the right to vote. And when I went in that place and I saw, and I said to myself, look at this. God has taken us from a mighty long way in less than 100 years. And now we got a black mayor in Birmingham, black city council, black school board, black police chief, but nothing has changed. So I told them, I said, you need renewing of your mind. You need to come out from a slave mentality. And you need to have a mind filled with God and the love of God and the love of your people. You need to come out from a slave mentality. And you need to have a mind filled with God and the love of God and the love of your people. And then if you're in power, you have to show even the white people in the city that you have jurisdiction over, that you are going to be a just ruler. Because if you're going to be like they are and were, God will sit you down as he's sitting them down. You got to show more godliness, more righteousness in judgment and in justice and in rulership. God is about to give you the rings. Joseph was sold into bondage by his own brothers. And one day he looked up, and Pharaoh had to come get him out of prison. And the boy had such keen wisdom and interpretation of things till they made Joseph literally second only to Pharaoh. That didn't mean vice president. It just meant he was real power in the land. God is exalting you. Can't you see it? This is why we ask you to register. Register to vote. But wait, Farakhan. Now, Farakhan, you in this politics stuff? Wait a minute. I ain't in it like you in it. Because maybe you don't know what to do with yours. But if they allow me, I will help you to use your vote with strength and wisdom. Listen, you all should register. Every young person, go on and register. Say, for what? For what? Look, man, it ain't nothing wrong with having money in the bank, even if you don't spend it right away. It's good to know you got it. Now, if everybody registered, then we need political education along with the knowledge of self, so that you know what your self-interest is. Now, there ain't a white person in office in Macon or anywhere in Georgia that don't get there by your vote. But what is their program where your suffering is concerned? They don't have any. So we decided at the Million Man March that we were going to create a third political force. I didn't say party right now. I said third force because I know you're a Democrat. And I know you still sort of tied up. But you know, Reverend Ficklin, Jesus told his disciples, he said, go, you'll find an ass and a young colt tied with her. Untie them and bring them to me. And if anybody asks you what you're doing, tell them the master has need of them. You all tied up in the party. They're using you against yourself, but not for your people. You just tied up. And you're so loyal to everybody but yourself. I'm a loyal Democrat. But you once were a Republican. When Abraham Lincoln signed that Emancipation Proclamation, all of us went with Honest Abe. We said, man, if Abe gonna free the slaves, we got to be with Abe. So you were Republican then. You was an elephant. Then when the New Deal came in, after the crash of 1929, and Roosevelt came in with the New Deal and set up the WPA and all these social programs, you switched, mop. Jumped out of the Republican Party, jumped from an elephant to a jackass. I mean, to a donkey. I'm going to leave now. I think it's time for me to get out of town. Brothers and sisters, you now in the Democratic Party, but in truth, Mr. Clinton has not treated you right. I'm just going to deal with truth. When that man gave a speech on affirmative action, but didn't veto it, he signed, this bill. He signed welfare reform. He never signed a jobs provision tied into welfare reform. Welfare should be reformed. You don't want to be on the dole all your life. You want to work, make an honest living. I hope you don't leave, because I'm about to go into this crack cocaine as I leave. I want to show you all your friends. See, family, listen. He did not do the thing that would be in the beneficial interest of the masses of our people. Welfare should be reformed, but you shouldn't say, we give you so many years, take you off of welfare, and you don't have a jobs provision side of that to create jobs for the people. And look, at the same time that he signed welfare reform, maybe you don't know this, but under Clinton, America has become the leading seller of arms in the world. Listen. She's captured 73% of all arms sales in the world. And she sells more arms than the next 4 or 5 countries combined. She has a vested interest in war and in death, so her policy is promoted. You didn't hear me? In order to get arms deals, they sweeten the deal by allowing factories to come up overseas to manufacture some parts of the weapons, taking jobs away from the American people. You didn't know this. So in effect, what he's done is drop you. Well, wait a minute, Farakhan, are you for Dole? How could I be? See, I'm looking at these men, and I see Ross Perot tell more truth than them two put together. If you're really going to go on truth, Ross Perot is telling more truth than Clinton and Dole put together. Are you telling me vote? I ain't telling you to vote for him. You go to the poll and vote for who you want. But as for me, you know, see, to me, the time is out for voting for personalities. The time is in for us to craft an agenda that is in the best interest not only of our people, but if it is a universally applicable agenda, all people can find refuge under that type of an agenda. Since the American people are so dissatisfied with the process, then if we create a third political force with the black people as the cornerstone, then you reach out to the Hispanics, the Arabs, the Asians, the Native Americans, the poor and vulnerable whites. Then you got a lever. A lever. What do you mean a lever? 4 years from now, there'll be another one. But in the meantime, there's congressional races. There are aldermanic races. There's city council races. There are judges and sheriffs and all of this. When you register to vote, then you look at these people that are running and you see who you want in. And then when we leverage our agenda, you make every one of them come and tell us what you're going to do with this. See, you ever watch the Jewish people? You and I can learn a lot from them. This is not negative. It's not anti-Semitic at all. But Jewish people are highly intelligent. You will never find the president putting on an African robe coming in your meetings. Has he ever done it? But you see him put on a yarmulke and go in the synagogue. Why? He respects Jewish organization, money, and power. You have more money, but you're not organized. You have potential power, but if you organize and mobilize your potential, every one of them would come to you, put on an African booba, and beat a drum, and come on in and talk about our agenda. So whoever's going to win this election is already over. But if you register to vote, you hope that we're going to be here to see the year 2000 roll in, then we want to be able to make a difference in Georgia politics. We want to be able to make a difference in United States politics. And in order to do that, you, the people, have to be educated. I mean, I'm talking about Georgia so-called white folk that are tobacco chewing. They don't know what they're doing either. All they know is they don't like black folk. Well, that's not going to cut it today. But they are hurting. The farmer is hurting. White folks are hurting. So since they're hurting, you hurting, we hurting, maybe we should find some common ground and then leverage that vote and that potential to make a change all the way around. I'm going to close, but I want you to hear me. These people hate the fact that you may become the power in America in the 21st century. Bear with me 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes, just 5 more. You notice your birth rate is higher than white folks. Seem like every time every time you ain't firing no blanks. And if you could see the babies that black people are producing, while the white birth rate is at what they call zero population growth. Every time a white child is born, one dies, which means that you have an ever-widening elderly population of whites and an ever-widening youth population of blacks that are working age and fighting age with no job and no more superpower left in the world. And they say that by the year 2053, if it continues like this, blacks will either be equal to or the majority population in America. And if blacks united with the brown, the Mexican, the Hispanics, then you will rule America. Now, people that are racist, when they think about that, I mean, just think with me. You're racist. You see the country that you made for white, by white, and of white, now turning brown, soon to become black. If you're a racist, this messes with your heart, your blood pressure. You begin to have nightmares at night. It's serious. Now, the racist begins to plot, like it's written in the Bible, come, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply and join on to an enemy of ours and come against us. And Pharaoh hatched a plot to kill all the male children and spare the females. And if you listen now, this is a fact. when they were fighting the war in Southeast Asia, what we may not know is that Americans literally took control of a lot of the opium and heroin producing fields in Southeast Asia. You didn't hear me? And heroin was coming into the country from that area of the world. And that heroin was focused on the black community. In the picture The Godfather that came out in the 70s, when they were trying to get the Godfather interested in the drugs and he was resistant, when they finally agreed to let the drugs in, they said send the drugs to the black community because the niggers, you know, they ain't got no souls anyway. But that's in a movie, but that is real. You have always been the target for the drugs. And the target has always been the black male. I want you to hear me now. Every time you rose in consciousness, more drugs came in because the preachers couldn't hold us anymore with, you know, after they lost that grip, a heaven too high, a hell too low, the young people weren't going to church no more. They had to find another way to control youth. So the drugs start coming in. During the 60s, a purer form of heroin was directed to the black community. After they destroyed our movement through the counterintelligence program, in the 80s, we started gaining consciousness again. Then crack came. Talk to me. Crack was directed at you. Now, the San Jose Mercury News has said that it was a CIA operation. Not quite. We have evidence. I'm not going to get too far into this tonight. That under Ronald Reagan, an executive order was signed to literally privatize certain aspects of covert operations. So you can't say that the CIA as an organization actually did it. That's why Deutsch could say we have no record of that. But what the truth of the matter is, under Reagan, when Bush came in, and you know Bush was a former CIA operative. Bush set up in the White House, out of the White House, an operation that was like a parallel government. And when Congress would not allow money to fight communism, so-called, in Nicaragua, they decided they would get around Congress. And the way they would get around Congress was they had to find a way to finance getting arms to the Contras. They went to Saudi Arabia and they got $30-some million, according to what I read, maybe more, from the Saudis. They got other money from rich oil sheikdoms. Right out of South America, they were growing the coca leaf And all of this was being done under the, I guess, or oversight coming out of national security, out of the White House. I'm not going to go too far, but this thing, when it comes to the public, is so explosive that it's bigger than Watergate. It'll make Watergate look like a fairy tale. Your own government involved in a conspiracy against the American people. Now that's hard to believe, isn't it? Not for us. It's not hard for us to believe, is it, brother? Look, Freeway Rick in Los Angeles was one of hundreds that were being supplied. He supplied the Bloods and the Crips. Now, once you supply the Bloods and the Crips with dope, you supply them with guns. I read that when the Soviet Union collapsed, some of the CIA operatives that were working in Eastern Europe were brought back to America to work among the gangs. That's right. They weren't there to create peace. Their aim was put the drug there, put the guns there, and cause us to kill each other. And all over America, listen, listen, listen. Look at who's in the funeral parlor. Those of us that are up in age, we're burying our grandchildren. Go look at the funeral parlors in Macon. It's young people. Young people in New York, young people in California, young people in Greenville, Mississippi, young people killing each other. Why? Because they said, come, let us deal wisely with them. They did it so smooth that it's hardly a trail. But all we know is the drug is there and we are dying. And there's not hardly one person in this audience that doesn't have a member in your family that is affected with crack cocaine. How many of you have a member in your family affected by crack cocaine? Raise your hand. My hand is up because I have the same in mine. My dear family, we are in deep trouble if we do not organize, mobilize, and educate our people. Stop this foolishness about Baptist, Methodist, Catholic, Episcopalian, Church of God in Christ, Muslim, Hebrew. We are the people of God, and He is one, and we should not allow these artificial differences to keep us from mobilizing for our own security and salvation. Stop thinking about Democrat, Republican. Let us form this third political force. And ultimately, it may grow into a third party. Since everybody's dissatisfied with Democrats and Republicans, and believe me, when Ross Perot said special interests got this government, he's not lying. That is a fact. They have robbed you of the value of your vote because money has bought off your leaders. Now, I'm saying to you, this is a very important election. I would hope that the whites of the district of Cynthia McKinney would not punish her because she respects Farakhan for the truth that I tell. I would hope that you would be fair-minded. You know, in this audience there are some white people. Some of them may be Irish, some of them may be Italian. If I said John Giuliani is a racist Italian, it wouldn't matter. If I said so-and-so Houlihan is a racist Irish person, it wouldn't matter. If Mr. Halopoulos was a racist and I said he's a racist Greek, it wouldn't matter. But the moment you say racist Jew, you're in deep trouble, because you cannot criticize any member of the community that are the chosen of God except that you are willing to suffer to be called anti-Semitic. I don't believe I have ever been anti-Semitic.
That's right, Minister.
I do not hate people because their faith is Judaism.
That's right.
There is not a true Muslim who does not love the prophets of Israel and the scriptures of those prophets which form what is called the Torah or the Old Testament. You can't be a Muslim and hate the prophets of Israel. Am I telling the truth?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're telling it, Minister. You're telling it.
That is not what Farrakhan is about. I don't know whether you saw me on the Ted Koppel show.
Yes, sir. Beautiful. Yes, absolutely. Beautiful.
But, you know, the Bible talks about those who say they are Jews and are not. I didn't write the Bible. It said he will make them of the synagogue of Satan. Now wait just a minute. See, to be a Jew is a very great thing.
Come on, Brother Minister, make it plain, sir. Teach.
That's a very great thing, to be called a Jew. Because a Jew is one who has a covenant relationship with God. And that unique, special relationship is based upon the laws, statutes, and commandments that are in the covenant with that people and their God. You hear me? However, whenever you receive revelation, you can use revelation for good, or you can use revelation for evil. Now, I know that there are Jews that strive to live by the laws, statutes, and commandments of God. We have no quarrel with them.
Yes, sir. Not at all.
But what about those who say they are?
Yes, sir.
And then spread pornography? Show me in the laws and statutes and commandments of God where God permits that. Show me where God permits homosexuality. Show me where God permits a woman to dress as a man and a man to dress as a woman. Show it to me in the laws and the statutes of God. You can't do it. This filth that is coming up out of Hollywood. How can you tell me these are people of God? So some who say they are not. And if they are good and bad in every people, if we point out a bad one, why are we anti-Semitic? Talk to me. If I point out a bad black person, am I anti-black? Haven't I been just as hard on us as I've been on anybody? But wait. You don't see me as one who hates you, do you? It's love that makes you want to correct people. You know, to the whites in the audience, I want you to hear me. I know that most of you ain't never enslaved anybody. You didn't put my people in bondage, not you. But you know, you have to show that you are different from your fathers. See, wait. You have a responsibility. You are in a privileged position because we were put in an unprivileged position. And you benefited from our discomfort. Whether you want to agree to that or not, you have benefited. So now you have a responsibility to help the black man come up out of this condition with justice. And if you fail in your generation, then you are no better than your fathers. And then the book said, prepare slaughter for the children, for the iniquities of their fathers. You read the Bible. See, you don't preach that Bible, though. But I preach it. So, if you want to escape that consequence, you got to join with us in fighting for justice, a just American society, a better or more righteous society. Then you can escape that judgment. So I thank my brother. I think I've covered the bases. If I didn't cover the base, I'm sorry, but I did the best I could. May Allah bless you, Georgia. May Allah bless you, Macon. Go on and be the great people you are born to be. And all you young warriors, don't pick up a gun to slaughter yourself or your brother. You and your brother are brothers, whether you live on the north side, the south side, the east side, the west side. We are all family. Let's relate to each other as that. Thank you for listening, and may Allah bless you as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Brothers and sisters, let us hear it one more time for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Let him hear a making round of applause, brothers and sisters. Let us hear it for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, live in Macon. All praise is due to Allah, brothers and sisters. Please be advised that tonight's historic lecture by the Honorable Louis Farrakhan is available.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan speaking here in Macon, Georgia, to some of the political leaders and some of the educators, and he gave such a profound knowledge of world affairs till I think it really opened up the eyes and hearts of the people of Macon, Georgia. I don't think Macon, Georgia will be the same after hearing from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. He expounded on the unity of voting so we can intervene with policies that may be implemented against Africa. So without us having the political power, they're able to do whatever they please to do. So Minister Farrakhan is coercing everyone to get registered to vote so we can put the proper people in office that are going to be of some aid and help to ourselves. We had a tremendous crowd here. I think we was in the neighborhood of at least 4,000 people here in this little basketball gymnasium here in Macon, Georgia. Thank you very much. And this is Abdul Rahman Muhammad in Macon, Georgia. Over in